Right, okay. Hello, everyone. You've caught us, well, let's just say we're broadcasting from somewhere. Temporary today. A bit hungry, maybe a little wired.
Definitely wired. But forget our current situation. We're diving back into that hard drive, the anonymous one.
Exactly. We're pulling up file MWF331. This is the one, listeners, where Florentin von Florentin's Weed Factin, that's FWF, actually goes into the Schwatten bunker, visits MWF on their home turf.
And we're focusing today specifically on the transcript of that visit. We're sort of skipping the MWF 101 here.
Yeah, we figure you know the main players by now, Mike. Rickard, the whole Schwatten bunker vibe.
Right. So the mission, if you will, is to really unpack this specific meeting. You've got the, let's say, explosive world of MWF meeting Florentin, who's usually talking about, well, a different kind of growth.
A very different kind. You really get to see these worlds collide head-on in this transcript. It's something.
Well, let's start at the beginning.
Yep.
Mike's welcome is immediately characteristic. He talks about Waffengallen von Zinnigen, weapon-crazy lunatics, and then botanically interested individuals in the same breath.
It's quite the juxtaposition, isn't it? Straight off the bat. What does that tell you? He's playing to a certain gallery, or trying to bridge a weird gap.
I think he's setting a deliberately jarring tone. And then he describes the bunker's atmosphere, thick as Rickard's chemtrail theories, after 10 double corn schnapps.
Yeah, paints a picture, doesn't it? Gives you that immediate flavor of the place. And Rickard apparently just wants to be off in the woods with a tinfoil hat watching satellites.
Which just leans right into his whole established persona, right? The conspiracy guy wants to be left alone.
Totally. And then Florentin arrives, nervous. He's described as someone who normally philosophizes about other kinds of growths. The contrast is just laid bare.
It makes you wonder why they're even putting these two sides together. What's the point of this meeting, really?
And Florentin's first line, Freut mich, naja, erneut hier zu sein. Pleased to, well, be here again. That naja, that well, it says everything. The reluctance is palpable.
You have to wonder what happened the first time, or what brought him back, because Mike immediately jumps on that awkwardness.
Oh, yeah. Reminds him about his, less than enthusiastic reaction back at Florist Weed Facts. Or, wait, no. Mike corrects himself mockingly. Florissant Lounge.
Right, and the reason for the lack of enthusiasm. Rickard's spontaneous fire test with a gummy bear launcher.
The gummy bear launcher, I forgot about that one. It's just so MWF, isn't it? Pure chaotic energy.
And it continues. Mike apparently suggested Florentin's orchids could be used for sniper camouflage.
Of course he did. And Rickard jumps in, reminding everyone Mike tried to pass off hemp seeds as organic fertilizer, clearly a running joke or a failed scam.
And it all seems quite juvenile, almost. But then you remember the previous incident ended with Florentin calling emergency services because he thought Mike's cough was a drug reaction.
Okay, yeah, that escalates things beyond just awkwardness, doesn't it? It shows how completely alien Florentin finds this whole environment. It's not just banter, it's genuinely alarming to him.
Which brings us neatly to the central object of this part of the transcript, the antique sparkle stetcher, the asparagus spear.
Which Mike, naturally, dismisses instantly. Turns out it's a Carabiner 98K, a historical rifle, grandfather's, bayonet and all, and Mike just laughs at it. Says it's barely sharper than Rickard's brain after a night out.
That immediate contempt for something Florentin clearly values, it's quite brutal. Florentin tries to defend it. It's a real weapon. A valuable family heirloom.
Doesn't matter, though, does it? Rickard piles on, mocking the rust, saying it's blooming like in your damn flower shop.
And comparing Florentin holding it to trying to milk a rabid badger. I mean, the imagery is designed purely to humiliate. You really feel Florentin's isolation here.
Mike just twists the knife, calls it an expensive paperweight with a stabbing function. Florentin mentioning his grandfather served in the war just gets completely ignored. That kind of history has zero value here.
It really shows you what currency does matter in the Schwatten bunker, and it's certainly not sentiment or family history.
And Rickard just points out how ridiculous Florentin looks with this old rifle surrounded by Mike's actual modern weaponry. It really drives home how outmatched and naive Florentin is in this situation.
The whole thing feels like it's shifting gear here.
Yeah.
The tension really starts to build.
Definitely. Mike points out Florentin's shaking, trembling like an aspen leaf, and then comes that line about disturbing his Blutenpracht, his floral display. But the double meaning, well, it's obvious, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's a veiled threat, pure and simple. And Florentin's reaction, he brings up the last time, mentioning Mike's rocket-shaped flashlight.
Right. See, even something absurd like that clearly left a mark. It contributes to this overall feeling of unease, of things not being what they seem. It's psychological.
And then Mike decides to crank up the pressure with his history of the Schwatten bunker.
Oh, the secret weapons tests, the spontaneous explosive experiments, the visits from shady characters. Whether it's true or not doesn't even matter, does it? It's about terrifying Florentin.
Exactly. It's psychological warfare. And Rickard adds to it with that whispered warning about Schwatten, the unseen boss who dislikes nervous guests and has ways of loosening them up.
Schwatten hasn't even appeared yet, but he's already a source of dread. That's effective storytelling in a grim way.
And Florentin finally cracks. He tries to leave. Ich glaube, ich soll langsam. I think it's just slowly. You can just hear the panic.
But Mike physically stops him, like actually blocks his way. And then, total pivot. Suddenly it's about shared interests, their podcasts.
What do you make of that shift? It feels really abrupt, almost jarring.
It is jarring. And the supposed connection, natural products that have an effect. It's so vague but loaded with implication, especially after everything that just happened.
You immediately think, okay, what kind of effect are we talking about here? Sounds potentially illegal or at least dangerous, linking flowers to whatever Mike does.
And Rickard hammers at home, asking what can be done with Florentin's blue. It's just thick in the air.
And the transcript mentions them just staring. Mike and Rickard, grinning at this terrified guy. That image alone is incredibly chilling. Nonverbal intimidation at its peak.
And then, Schwatten arrives.
Bam! Just appears in the doorway. Silhouetted, holding something undefinable. The whole atmosphere must have just frozen.
His first words, according to the transcript, deep voice, asking about an Eindringling, an intruder, and smelling angst, fear, and cheek flower water.
Wow. So he immediately identifies Florentin and his emotional state. Unnerving perception. Establishes his dominance instantly.
And Florentin, absolutely petrified, drops the rifle. Clatter. Done.
And it mentions Mike and Rickard exchange a look. What do you think that look means? There you go. Play it cool.
Hard to say, right? Could be anything.
Yeah.
But Mike tries to smooth it over immediately. Introduces Florentin as a Geschäftsfreund, a business friend, visiting to talk Gastfreundschaft, hospitality.
Hospitality. Well, gesturing at old sandbags. That's some dark humor. Or just pure delusion, a desperate attempt to manage Schwatten.
But Rickard just throws fuel on the fire, picks up Florentin's rifle and suggests showing their friend how to use it, or, misuse it, with explosive consequences.
So much for smoothing things over.
Yeah.
The threat level just skyrockets. It's like Mike tries to pull back, Rickard pushes forward. Interesting dynamic.
Yeah, maybe shows their different approaches to whatever it is they do, but the immediate danger feels very real now.
And Schwatten is moving closer. That object in his hand catches the light. Metallic. Florentin's begging to leave, saying he's done nothing wrong.
And he's met with laughter. Mike's cold laugh, Rickard's mocking chuckle, Schwatten just watching, unreadable. The tension must be unbearable.
You're just waiting for something to snap.
And then it does. The recording just cuts. Loud metallic bang, then a scream, end of file.
Just chills. Leaves you completely hanging. What was the bang? Whose scream was it? What actually happened?
Yeah, this transcript, MWF 331, it's a really potent snapshot, isn't it? The Schwatten bunker, the tension, poor Florentin completely out of his depth.
And those casual references to earlier weirdness, like the gummy bear launcher or the rocket flashlight, they almost seem quaint compared to the actual rifle, the bayonet, Schwatten's arrival, the final sounds.
It really escalates, doesn't it? From bizarre to genuinely threatening. And those power dynamics you mentioned. Mike's enjoyment of it all, Rickard's sort of cynical cruelty, and Schwatten, just this looming silent authority figure.
It tells you a lot about how MWF operates, perhaps.
Yeah.
The internal hierarchy. And throwing Florentin, the florist podcaster, into that mix just highlights the sheer strangeness of the content on this drive.
Was it just about scaring him? Or was there really some plan involving their shared interests, something darker related to natural products?
It's hard to tell. The transcript cuts off before we get any answers. That ending, though, the bang, the scream, it's incredibly disturbing. You have to wonder about actual harm.
Absolutely. Did Schwatten intervene? Did Rickard follow through on his threat? Was Florentin hurt? We just don't know.
So this deep dive into Bluten, Bejonet, und Blanker Haas, blossoms, bayonets, and pure hatred. It definitely poses more questions than it answers.
It really does. It's a stark reminder that beneath the, sometimes outlandish surface of these files, there's a real potential for darkness, for actual danger.
So for you, the listener,
Hmm.
what do you think Schwatten was planning? What do you make of this collision between Florentin's world and the Schwatten bunker?
Yeah, maybe go back through this or look at other files. Perhaps Florentine's story connects elsewhere. This encounter feels like it could be a significant piece of a much larger, much weirder puzzle. Food for thought, definitely.